lot of people today might not know the name MC Anderson, but you had a pretty doggone good team.
Oh, we had a
who was the MC Anderson that you knew?
Extremely smart businessman in construction. So when you got to Savannah, you saw MC Anderson dump trucks everywhere. Bulldozers, dump trucks. He had a lot of state contracts and things. So construction like that. But I remember my best friend. He'd ride with us sometimes to the race, and leaned over to me and he said, "You see MC's shoes? You know a man by the shoes he wears." That's how back in that time. And he said, "That's a man, that's a businessman." And he was extremely successful, very kind, very generous to his team. This was all just, I love racing. I'd like to have a race team. All run out of his pocket.
Yeah.
You know, the reason he sold his team is because Tim Brewer and Harold went there to run a limited schedule. And we got Cale. We run a year. MC says, "I want to run for the championship." They went up to MC and said, "Well, here's what it's going to cost you," and tried to scare him with money. He said, "Well, if you don't want to do it, then we're done. We're just going to sell the team." And he sold it to Raymond Beadle. Made him mad.
Wow.
But you didn't play with him. I remember one time we got back from Darlington, and he called everybody into the office and told them everybody what they had done, what they better not do again. We were followed. You know, he had detectives checking on things, making sure we didn't get out of line. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you're talking about what you'd done away from the track.
While we were gone at the track and in the hotels and all that, he knew everything.
Did he really?
Yeah, he knew everything. Yeah, I won't tell you everything I know. Because
come on.
If about 3 people die, I can tell you.
I'll be back.
Yeah, but I mean, you might talk to some people that, some might tell you the truth, but from time to time, he would have he just didn't want his people getting out of line. He did it for your own good, but also when he's spending his money and you're his property in a way. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you represent MC Anderson and Valvoline, and he wanted people doing the right thing. So I remember we jumped in a car one night and we crossed the street at Darlington. We was at a gas station. The hotel was here. Well, I jumped on in the door, and I had one leg out. I was just riding on top of the car with a leg out, and we crossed the road, and here comes a patrolman, and, he's going to take me to jail. And Pete Peterson was on the team, and Pete was a Mason, Freemason.
Yeah.
So was the cop. Pete Peterson come back. He put a chew of tobacco in his mouth. We'd been out to dinner, messing around. We was going back to motel. Pete said, "Boy, he was taking you to jail." And he said, "If I wasn't a Freemason, you'd have went." MC knew all about it. We got back home. What was John doing riding across the road with his leg out of the car? But he never bothered me. I was just a kid. Wow. They were supposed to be looking after me.
Yeah.
But being young, see, I got I've had the greatest ride because I saw David Pearson and Richard Petty compete as a teenager. I was there. And people's like, "There's no way." In the 70s, I was there watching them. I can tell you about the Tim Richmond, David Pearson fight. I was standing beside them, and just been real fortunate for the ride I've been on in the sport,
You worked with Cale at MC's and then at Ranier. Mm-hmm. Did you basically follow him over there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. How did that?
So Cale drove for MC, and when MC decided he's going to sell the team to Raymond Beadle, then it moved here to Charlotte, the old Milwaukee Pontiac, turned into 27 Valvoline. Yeah. So Cale goes to Waddell at Ranier, and I remember Barry going talking to Cale, went to his house, and Cale said, "Y'all come with me. Y'all come on with me." So we all went. So Ed Thrapp, Pete Peterson, Barry, and then Tim Brewer and Harold Elliott went to the 27 car with Tim Richmond, and we didn't.
Yeah.
That was 83.
Yeah.
All right. So I was the tire guy on the weekends. Again, still being the tire guy, I would go do stagger. Waddell hired me. So we won Atlanta. We sat on the pole. Well, no, we flipped the car in the Daytona 500. Barry built that car, and it inverted qualifying, and we pulled out the backup Le Mans and won the Daytona 500. So we go out and win the Daytona 500. We win Atlanta in a backup car. And it was a show car we had to go get because we didn't have enough cars. So I was working in the body shop. They brought me down for contract labor during the week. and help get them ahead and build cars, but then just tire guy on the weekend. So we got half a season in, and they didn't like it. Waddell's a good friend of mine.
Who didn't like
Barry and Pete and Ed, and
Okay.
they like to party. You know, we're like Delma said, we didn't lose any parties. We didn't win all the races, but we lost no parties, you know. But they like to be able to go out and do and all that. And Waddell runs a tight ship. You know, they were like, if we don't get here till 9, but we'll stay till 9 tonight and work. Waddell's, it's by the book. It's like you're working in a sock factory in a way, and demanded, you know, you couldn't cut up. Well, that just wasn't like us. It's a difference in race teams today. I go in shops, and they just didn't got to where they didn't like it. So they got with Tim Brewer and Harold again and said, hey, so time for the Pocono race. Every one of us, they quit, and they go to show up at Pocono with Tim Richmond and Harold Elliott and all that mid-season. And Waddell fired me because I was part of the clan, you know. So we don't need you either.
So you were staying put.
Yeah, I was
Everybody
like, whatever.
else was leaving.
Well, they just kind of called and laughed and said, by the way, John, you're fired. You know, they told me the Waddell fired me. Said, no, he was part of the clan. Because you couldn't trust, you know. But me and Waddell are great, great friends. And we all have remained friends. I played golf with him and Higgins a bunch, Tom Higgins. But anyway, we all went over there. We show up at Pocono and with Tim Richmond. And the first Pocono race, we're there. We pit the car, finished top 10. The next Pocono race, we win it, and that's me right there in that picture with Tim Richmond in Victory Lane at Pocono in the Le Mans. So then from there on, it was Blue Max, Tim Brewer, Harold Elliott, and then when Raymond Beadle eventually in '84, he fired Tim Brewer, and that's when he let Barry be the crew chief. And then I started actually changing tires and things. Then went full time. That's where I finally went full time as Blue Max.
Talked to Larry McReynolds. And he said that even early on at Blue Max, there were money issues, and he would go down, and I guess they bought the team from.
He bought it from MC Anderson.
MC Anderson. Mm-hmm. He shows up to pick up all the equipment, and MC says, "You ain't leaving here until
that's right.
Until we get a check or whatever."
Yeah.
How much of an impact did you see that having on the team at that point early on?
Early on, you didn't see it as much. I mean, it was, you know, we had brand new Suburbans, putting gold leaf Blue Max on them, wearing the fried egg gold leaf hats. The drag cars would all come there. We became friends with Paul Candies and Snake, and, you know, it was just one big, that's the way drag racers are. Hey, we love each other. Let's go, you know. Yeah. And you didn't notice it at first. But then down the road, when Barry became crew chief, you know, I was more involved as a tire changer. I ran the shop when Barry would travel. Then we would fly in or drive on the weekend. So he trusted me, you know, what's going on in the shop, things like that. We learned. We would show up. The tire bill hadn't been paid, things like that. I remember one Christmas, in July, asked for the balance of my savings account, and my Christmas bonus check had bounced, and I didn't know it until July. And I said, Beadle, you know, where's my money? And Barry had to get my Christmas bonus money from him and stuff. He was generous, and you couldn't stay mad at him. He's like, yeah, no problem. Everything was no problem. Yeah. Oh, no problem. You know, but Kelly, my wife, would run his suite for him at the Speedway. Hey, you know, hire Kelly. We'll hire her, you know, $125 a day. She runs suite. She's up there, never get paid. You know, and she's like, I'm not going back and do that, you know, but you couldn't stay mad at him. Because let's all go to dinner. Come on, let's go to dinner. Let's go. You know, it just Beadle. But over time, it was growing. When you're trying to race and you didn't feel the support, and, you know, we had to, you know, beg, borrow, and steal every way we could. And we won a championship on $400,000. You know, won our first races with Alugard. Think about that, just a few $100,000. Yeah. You know, using used parts and things like that. But we didn't waste. Barry's theory was always the less money we spent, the longer we had a job. You know, very frugal. Yeah. I quit one time. I was making $25,000 a year, and I said, "You got to pay me $35,000 a year. I've been here for 3 or 4 years. I got to have more money. These guys are making more money." But see, I was his brother. No, we can't.
So you're negotiating
with my brother. And this was 88, 87, 88. And Rusty was the driver then. And Tim Richmond had went over to Hendrick. And I told Barry, I said, I'm quitting. And I got a job, and I sold food, but I still went and changed tires on the weekends. So I was like, okay, I'll make more money doing this, plus my $100 a week selling food. And every time I was putting Rusty in the car, you coming back, ain't you, man? You coming back? He'd be, here's Rusty popping him wrist, and you coming back, ain't you? I said, not till y'all pay me what I'm worth. I said, everybody around me's making more. I'm a brother. Finally, Barry called me. He says, come on down here. He says, so you want $10,000? I said, pay me $35,000 a year. $10,000, I'll come back. He goes, heck, it ain't my money. I said, why didn't you do this 5 months ago? And went right back full time.
Yeah.
The next year we won a championship, and I was happy. And we made some bonus money and had some great parties. And racing was so much different back then.
So somebody posted something about Tim Richmond during the Blue Max days.
Yeah.
And you commented, I've got some Tim Richmond stories. Well, that's why I'm here. I want to hear some Tim Richmond
some I
stories.
can't tell. Oh man, Tim Richmond. I remember he was the first one to drive a bus. First one to bring his bus to the infield. Yeah. Started at Indy. We used to go to his house. You didn't have cell phones. If you called somebody and you didn't get them, you called back. But we just congregated at his house on the lake, and that was your friends. You didn't have friends outside of racing. So me and Kelly, my wife, and Earnhardt and his wife, and Barry and a girlfriend or something, you just spent the weekends over at Tim's, or during the week we're over there skiing. Tim pulls out. Tim was Elvis of NASCAR. He was a show-off. He was Smoking the Bandit. That was him. He loved to show off. I remember he'd pull out VCR and show his Indy race, riding with, I'm trying to remember who won the Indy 500, but he jumped on the car because Tim had run out of gas. And, hey, look, this is me, and watch this, and you get out on the boats, we cook out, and we just played together, all of us, and it was fun. We had a great time. And then you raced, so you get at the racetrack. He did not like anybody. He and like Kyle Petty liked to take up for the little guy, the unfortunate guy. You know what I mean?
He didn't like
anybody putting anybody down, belittling anybody, setting anybody straight. I remember one time kind of chewing out the cleanup boy, or Tim says, hey, and I learned from that. Don't do that. I remember one time that him and Harold Elliott, they were going to, I think maybe J.E. Pistons or something. They seen this homeless guy out on the street. So Tim brings this guy in and buys him food and lets him sit at the bar with Harold. And this guy's crying and all this stuff. And he's like, what do you else want? Give this guy a steak, Yeah. And that was him. He didn't like that. Kyle Petty's that way. Kyle Petty was going to go to the person who might be, nobody's talking to this person over here, or this person might not be as fortunate. That's where Kyle's going to gravitate to. I've watched him for years do like that. Tim's the same way. Come on, you can be, you mean something to me, that kind of guy. One good story is at Daytona when Tim Brewer was the crew chief. It's the Firecracker 400. And Tim radios in and says David Pearson won't get out of the way. It's a Chattanooga car, and he was smoking. And Tim Brewer said, well, they've black flagged him. Don't pay any attention. It's 5 laps to go. So Tim takes the information, Tim Richmond, well, they've black flagged him. He shouldn't be out here anyway. So he flips the bird to David Pearson. An Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah. David Pearson's got Indian blood in him. He flips the bird to David Pearson. Tim really basically told him it wasn't true. I'm not saying Tim lied to him. Yeah, Tim was saying, don't pay any attention to him. Just finish the race. And no, Richmond's got to flip in the bird. So Richmond radios and says, hey, I think he's mad. I think Pearson's mad. Maybe you better come down here. Well, Tim was a wimp. Richmond. Yeah. Tim Brewer was not. Tim Brewer will fight a brick wall. Yeah, he's like me. Well, Tim Brewer says, John, go get with Tim. Run. Well, I was sort of a hothead then. I got in fights at the Winston All-Star race. Yeah. I got bit. I got in a fight at Wilkesboro. I was the scrapper. I'm the enforcer, you might say, back in those days. But I was hot-blooded. But, it was a team sport, and you don't mess with my team. I run down pit road, and when Tim's coming off the track, he stops before going behind, and I get in the car. He's like, come on.
You're joking.
No, protect me from David Pearson. I'm 19, I'm 20 years old. So we got out of the car and said, he's mad, and I'm riding in on the car. I've run 180 with Tim sitting in the floorboard at Daytona on a test down there just to go out and see if the track was wet. So that's another story. That's the next story. So anyway, we drive into the garage and we pull into the thing, and you can tell he's like, man, he's pissed. David Pearson, I hope he don't come over here. Well, by the time he gets out of the car, here comes Pearson. And I mean, his nose to nose right here. And he says, I'm not going to cuss, and I'm going to say the things he said, but basically, don't you ever point that finger at me. I'll break it off and stick it blank, 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 or whatever. And Pearson's this close to him. He had enough, and we're in the last stall. Here's the garage wall, the old garages at Daytona. You got a doorway to walk out of. And he basically just comes up and hits Tim like just, boom. He just melts into that block wall, Richmond does. He's just one punch, and Pearson's just standing there like, you going to give me a finger again? Like this young kid.
Hey, you're supposed to be protecting him.
Wasn't time. And the other thing is, he needed it. He needed that. Tim Richmond needed that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't come in here and disrespect these, Hall of Famers like David Pearson.
Yeah.
And he it's just like, think about how Keselowski came in the sport and everybody wrecked him. And, different drivers.
Yeah.
You're going to earn your way in here. So I think Tim Richmond grew a lot that right there. But he punched him against that wall, and then everybody grabbed Pearson. Pearson's like, I'm done. I don't need to do anymore. There he lays, And I'm like, man, I'm glad I never messed with David Pearson. So I go back with Tim. I get him up, We go back, and he gets between the trucks. I quit. And he's throwing his gloves and goes up in the truck. And I quit, and I ain't driving anymore. And I'm like, whatever. He drove again, but I was there for it. But again, he needed that.
And that was Richard Petty's 200th win that day.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. That's the day that we saw Reagan. Yep. And then another story with Richmond, we were at testing. And it was the following year, because then Tim Brewer was the crew chief then. That's when Barry became the crew chief. And we had stretched our car out. We cut the template over the NASCAR template, and they didn't know it. And we had stretched our car out 2 inches. Our Grand
2
Prix.
inches.
Oh, it's maybe 3 or 4 now, but we had stretched the nose out. And we run a couple laps down there. Let's back up. We were on the test.
Yeah.
And we learned to stretching the car on the test. But we were on the test. And they say, I think the track's wet. They're getting ready to open up. And Tim says, well, I'll go out and run a few laps, see how wet it is. And he says, come on. Well, I jump in he's buckled in his seat with everything on. I sit in the floorboard.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And he says, we'll just see if it's wet. We'll just ride around. I said, okay, I'll go with you. Because we'd been out in Lincoln Continentals.
Yeah.
And you can run 100 miles an hour at Daytona and not touch the steering wheel. Just basically turns itself. We run 5 laps, turn around and run the opposite way 5 laps, or blow the engine because all the oil's laying one side of the engine. So we go out and we run, and we go off for the come down pit road, go around the turn. You can see all the shade in 1 and 2, and he'd get up on the bank and try to slide the car and see how wet it was. And we go down the back stretch, and he looks over at me like that, and I'm kind of looking at him. He grins, he pulls down his belt buckles, puts it wide open. Never let up. We go into 3 and 4. About 4 laps, wide open Daytona, run 180 miles an hour, 188, 85. I'm sitting over here like this, and if we blow a tire, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
First, we go to see if it's wet. He's just grinning, and I said, there's smoke. There's smoke in the car back here. We better go in. He said, oh, I don't want to tear the car. I lied. And he said, what's it smoking? I said, you crazy fool. He just a grinning. And we go in, and Red Dog, I don't know if you remember
Buddy
Barnes.
Yeah.
Red Dog comes over. Yeah. He says, dang, John, y'all's running 180 miles an hour. They're clocking us. He's in the floorboard. True story. Reckon what they would do with me today in NASCAR
my gosh.
if you did that. True story.
Barry took over as crew chief in 1985. How did he and Tim get along?
Wonderfully.
Did they really?
Like brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderfully. When we won the championship, Barry wore Tim's tuxedo, and Tim had passed away.
Yeah.
He had to squeeze into it because Tim was thin, but they got along great. Both of them were kind of playboys anyway, so that's kind of part of it, chasing women like they did and all that. But they got along really good. The thing about Tim was the team didn't know how committed he was, and what really broke the straw that broke the camel's back is we were at Atlanta. Tim didn't show up for qualifying. He was partying a little too much. We felt like he would get out of the car like, where's the cameras? We're trying to race. He didn't know how to change a spark plug. We're racers. Jimmy Maycar, me, Barry, Harold Elliott. And then Tim comes back second day qualifying, and we ran fast enough to sit on the pole of the race. So everybody's, put out. Well, Hendrick's nursing him, wants him to come over there. We're not asking him to stay. We don't know who we're getting. We won a few races, but we're not begging him to stay because we want somebody who's committed to racing. Even though he was, they got the best out of him over there. I remember him calling the shop and saying, I'm going to go over here unless you guys want to be enlightened, and I'll tell you what's, Nobody called him back. Nobody.
Unless you want to be enlightened.
I'll enlighten y'all on what you think of me or what you don't think of me. I'll enlighten y'all. You don't have to enlighten us. You're not committed to this race car.
Wow.
He goes to Hendrick in the Folgers deal. We get Rusty Wallace. We won the 5th race out at Bristol, his first win. We had us a race car driver committed. Even though Tim was extremely successful, but think about one thing. Hendrick's cars has always been the best team. He got in a much better race car than we had at that time. Rusty made us a better race team. He made us better. Tim went over there to a better car. So you got to look at how that we won 2 races in 85, 2 in 80, no, let's see, 85, 86. We won 2 road courses in 86, 2 short tracks in 87. 6 races in 88 and 6 in 89 in the championship. So we progressed. Plus, we was running a much different Pontiac than everybody else. It was 2 inches longer than everybody's, and I'm not going to tell you where the 2 inches are at.
Look, the statute of limitations is over.
Well, it was longer than everybody else's car. Everybody went to Le Mans, and everybody went to the Pontiac, and we're going to get us a Pontiac, and they still couldn't outrun us, and they didn't know why.
All right, so why couldn't they outrun you?
We was 2 inches longer. We had our spoiler 2 inches back, further than theirs.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How?
But we had Rusty Wallace driving, and we had a great pit crew. It's a package.
Now, was that in 89 or was that
88, 89?
Now,
when we got the new Pontiac.
How was that not caught? If your deck lid's
smoke and mirrors, baby.
Wow.
Well, we would cut the deck lid, stretch it 2 inches. We would re-arc and make a longer glass. And at that time, the template did not go over the back of the car. It just set down on the deck lid. Yeah. And they set it down, and they just checked the template. They didn't notice it was 2 inches away from the spoiler.
Wow.
We raced 2 seasons like that. Well, not complete once we figured out how much more downforce it gave us, Yeah. But still, I felt like we're going to win with either car, short car, not. But Rusty just insisted that he just insisted we got to have it, And we just built every car like that, and and then under the bottom side we had to decorate all that. We had to hand finish everything, make it look, and it was real hard to. They never saw it. Man, I've worked on cars with hydraulics, spoilers.
When and where?
It's nitro on the driver, nitro under the seat. 100 feet of fuel line under the dashboard. We took the gas tank out at Nashville and set it on the ground, and the car run for 10 minutes sitting there without a gas tank in it.
Come on, that's a smoky unit.
I'm telling you, everybody walked by the car and look at it.
What team?
Old Milwaukee Pontiac, Tim Brewer. Old Milwaukee, Tim Richmond, Nashville. We should have won the race that night. Another Tim Richmond story.
Yeah, should have.
Yeah, we should have won the race that night. We were sharing the pits. That's how bad we qualified.
Yeah.
My first time at Nashville. Should have won the race. Tim was mad. Come on, John, you ride with me back to the airport. So we got to go by the Marriott and get my clothes. So me and Tim in his Pontiac 6000, I can't remember if his girlfriend was riding with us at the time, but I know it was me and him, and then we're going to meet everybody at the airport. So we get to the Marriott. Now, Tim had an ego. They had locked his room, assumed that Mr. Richmond didn't pay his bill and left. So they had locked everything in his room, and he couldn't get in his room. So we're in the hall. So he is livid. He just lost the race.
This is Nashville?
This is Nashville in the Marriott.
Okay.
He was livid. This was after the race. So this is 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning by the time you get loaded and get there. And then we're going to fly home in Cessna 6-seaters, 2 or 3 planes.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick the door down. Well, his wrists were this big and his ankles was about that big. So he jumps up in the hallway of the Marriott and kicks the door and falls flat on his back, about kills him. Tries it again. And I said, stand back, son. Let me show you how to kick a door down. We kicked this $1,000 door off the hinges, to get in there. So not only had he not paid his bill, now he has to pay for this door, to this hotel. So I just remember him jumping up and kicking with 2 feet, falling down, almost hurt himself. It did hurt him, but he acted like it didn't. And I was like, man, you're going to hurt yourself. You can't drive a race car. Let me kick on it a while, But we got in there.
All right. So you mentioned the long car. You also mentioned the 100-footer of extra fuel line.
A lot of people did that.
You also mentioned hydraulic. You also mentioned nitrous.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When and where and who?
I don't know if I can tell that one.
Come on.
I know that Earnhardt had it. I know that Darrell Waltrip had it.
Nitrous.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know that one driver had it on his uniform. I know that I worked. You can just pick out. There's 20 drivers I worked for,
how is nitrous on a uniform going to help?
Well, you're going to just plug it in. You'll plug it in when you get in the car, and then you walk away. It's on you. A bottle or something.
Yeah.
It's on you. And then hydraulic spoilers, hydraulic things. Well, that's plugging in when you get into the car too, and with a button, and you can make a spoiler go like that. I can't tell who it is yet. It'll be in my book. I want to do a book with short stories of every little driver.
When are you going to start work on that book?
Well, let's do it. We'll do it together. But I want to do short stories of, here's a story about the King when I was what I experienced, and here's another one, and then maybe come out with a volume 2 or something. I'm thinking down the road. I'm a big thinker.
So 1988, you guys make a pretty serious run at the championship.
Yep.
And it's pretty nip and tuck with Bill at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You do fall a little bit short. At the end of that year, how big of a disappointment was that?
I don't know if the biggest disappointment came at the end of the year or when Bodine ran over us at Richmond to cause that. Because we had a point lead. They threw out the caution. Rusty slows down. Bodine hits us in the back on the front stretch, spins us through the infield. It runs dirt up into the exhaust, all the way up into the valves. That's how far dirt went.
Wow.
Valves of the car. So we're out. We lost our points lead, all our momentum. We dominated the Pontiac Excitement race up there for years. And that, I remember Rusty, when the plane hit the ground, and nobody spoke. Yeah. That's what losing sounds like. Nothing. When his plane hit the ground in Charlotte, he said, "He's not taking my fucking championship." You know what I mean? And we lost it. But I think we won 3 in a row toward the end.
Yeah.
But didn't, and we even won Atlanta. We won Rockingham. We closed it out. We just fell short. But nothing made us more determined. It happened. We were pissed, and we was going to win it next year. And by grannies, we did. We sucked at Daytona and Talladega, always.
Yeah.
Always. No matter what kind of cow we built, air cleaner, Barry thought it was all in that. It wasn't body. It was just a combination of horsepower and things like that because, we just could not run. But then we'd get to Rockingham or Michigan, and we would wear them out. You knew going to Daytona and Talladega, man, we're going to suck. Nobody else did, but we did. I remember standing out by Daytona and hearing guys in the pool talking about us not knowing I was standing there. Yeah, did you see what the 27 car did? I said, you just wait till next week.
I don't know how to appropriately ask this question, and I don't mean anything by it.
Yeah.
Was that Rusty?
Oh, no.
Or was that car?
Oh, it was all car.
Okay. All right.
If you remember, no, look how Rusty did when he ran to the 2 car. He ran good at Daytona Talladega. You remember at Talladega, we fell out of the race, and Rusty got in Bud Moore's car and relief drove and almost won the race. And Bud Moore tried to hire him big time. I'm getting him. They said, Bud gets him. He ain't going down there.
Yeah.
You know, Rusty loved us. He loved our team. He wouldn't go to Junior Johnson. Yeah. He wouldn't go to Rick Hendricks. He said, no, this is my guys. They get me. And we had this family gelling atmosphere that we just felt like we're invincible. And you look back at the races, and we didn't do anything till we were a lap or 2 down. Every single race, we lost a lap. We lost 3 laps at Rockingham. I was watching it on YouTube while I was working yesterday, and I'm like, how do we come out of this, you know? And you just fought hard and come back. Our motto, we got to get a lap down before we know what to do, you know? And it was hard, but it just made us more determined. And I don't think when we finally won it in '89, people don't know the sacrifice and the work that it takes to win a championship. And then we laid an egg the next year. You know, you thinking you're going to go out and wear them out in that Miller Genuine draft car and all that. Just had a terrible luck in season.
That year, it seemed like money kind of came to a head. At least it came to the attention of a lot of people, because there were lawsuits that went back and forth, or Rusty, I know, sued Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a point where you went to a vendor and tried to get something?
Mm-hmm. All the time. Hutcherson Pagan, you know, that we could be put on COD. You know, if you needed rivets, I'm sorry, but you got to pay your bill before you can get any more rivets or bolts. Or many times Barry would show up at the racetrack and we couldn't get tires. Rick Hendrick might give us a set of tires or something like that. Raymond denies that, but Barry and them, they would trade. We might have some free parts from Pontiac or something we get, and we'd try to trade it for some product that we needed, not having a lot of money. And Raymond had a big ranch in Texas, and, you know, but Raymond's a businessman doing what he did. We loved him. It wasn't, you know, if you notice, you look back on it, we're all together, we're all hugging, but you still like pay your bill, pay my wife for working in the suite, you know, pay my Christmas bonus. But we were still focused on winning, and we didn't let that bother us, but it did distract. You know, and I saw this interview yesterday in the same race, and him and Raymond's beside each other, and they're talking about, you know, there's a lawsuit, and Raymond said, we're determined on winning. But he kept thinking, you know, I'll get through the season, then I'll get more sponsors from Miller, and we'll keep us together. But Rusty's saying, hey, guys, I can get Penske. We can all go to Penske's. And he set the deal up thinking we were all going. And Barry's like, I don't want to go there. That's like working with Waddell where it's too structured. I want us to have fun and do our thing, you know. It's like a Chevrolet and a Ford. You know, Chevrolet's a little more not structured. Ford's, you know, something in that manner. But he did not want to go to Penske. So sometimes I regret maybe not going with Penske. But if you remember, Harold went, Jimmy Maycar went, Todd Parrott went. They all left. They couldn't, because Rusty became the boss. Rusty said, you would roll a car out ready to load on the trailer, and Rusty says, I don't like that fender. Let's go cut it off. And you worked till 10 or 2 in the morning just because he didn't like a fender. Well, that's not, Barry didn't allow that to happen. He said, if we go there, I can't call the shots anymore. You know, we're winning races with good race cars just because of drivers. If a driver's going to control it, and I agree with him, you can't let a driver have total control. Because, you can, but they're going to work you you'll have skeletons laying beside the race car.
With all the money trouble in mind, and all the issues that caused, how did you win a championship? How did you win races, much less the championship?
You know, I know that Harold would buy parts and we wouldn't pay for them. We'd have to promise that we were going to pay for them, you know, a set of heads or, you know, in the engine room. I don't know. We would rob parts from other cars. The biggest deal was getting your tire bill paid, you know. Credit cards would be bad when Red Dog would be on the road to haul the race car. You know, with credit cards stuck, I can't get fuel. I can't get the tags on my trailer. It was those kind of things that were distracting everything. And Raymond's in Texas. We're here, you know. So that communication and you know, call Raymond in the middle of the night. Red Dog stuck in Nashville on his way to, you know, stuck in Atlanta. He can't get to Talladega till you send him some money. You know, and it was really like that. It was like that. But, you know, for me, I didn't know it. All I know is what my job was to do on the team was build fenders, change tires. I didn't have to worry about that. But Barry and Harold constantly, they kind of co-ran the team.
Yeah.
Barry was the crew chief, but no decisions were made without him and Harold getting together. You know, Jimmy was the car chief. He did the setups. You know, came from juniors, but it was hard. Again, we didn't focus that much. I know when we won the championship, we went to New York and we burned it down, man. We had 3 parties. One's in Earnhardt's suite. He had a party for us, Earnhardt did. In his suite, we had a band at night, and the band was going to quit, and Raymond said, "Oh, they can't quit. Here, give them some hundreds." And I had a wad of hundreds, and I went up to the stage and just threw the hundreds, and they floated down like this, and the band said,
"Making it rain, man."
Yeah, they said, we'll play. Look, you can't quit. I got a picture of me on stage. I made up a poem for me and Rusty, and we're up there doing it. You know, I wrote a song, but I made it into a story that night, and I know Red Dog and Todd Parrott were drinking champagne out of their girlfriend's shoes. You know, we had a big old time. We had fun, man.
Okay.
And Raymond was like, "Hey, there's no expense spared here, y'all. Let's have fun."
Yeah.
You know, but you get back to the shop and you get back to the grind. But you couldn't get metal delivered to put body on. You couldn't get parts and things like that. Welding gas. Think of what it runs to run a business.
Yeah.
Well, you need all that, the resources.